Hello and welcome to Cornish Walking Trails. We're here on Crantock Beach to solve a 120-year-old mystery.
CSI MkII.
In today's video, so we're here looking for a cave. Not any old cave, a specific cave that has some carvings in the face of the rock. There's a lot of theory and a lot of mystery around why, who, where, who did it. She was tragically drowned on this beach. So what about the horse?
This is where it gets a bit weird.
Yeah, it does make sense that he did it. So are we suggesting it's a little bit of a hoax here? In today's video we're going to show you a carving that's thought to be 120 years old. But what does it mean? Who is it? Is it a romance that is left forever in stone? Let's find out. Crantock Beach car park. We finally got here. So it's on the River Ganal. We're going to go down to the beach, walk along the beach because it's low tide, and we're looking for a cave in Piper's Hole with a most fabulous romantic story. Or is it? Come on.
So that's given us an indication of what's happening with the tides today. So it's currently 3 o'clock. That's what we're looking for, isn't it? Low tide.
Yeah.
5 to 5. The tide is going out, which is important.
One safety reference for this video: do not attempt to do this with an incoming tide. Check your tide times because the cave gets flooded. Finally, we've made it to Crantock to film. Crantock is a really interesting village. It's like the quaint, quiet younger sister to Newquay. It's like Newquay and more considered without the bad bit, shall we say.
I mean, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe me. We've been doing this channel, do you know, for I think 7 years?
Yeah, 7.5 years.
We've never been to Crantock.
Well, we haven't filmed anything in Crantock. We've been near the area and maybe walked around it and overlooked Crantock to a certain extent. It's not because we don't want to do it, it's because it's a really interesting place, and also it's very tide dependent, isn't it?
Well, the story we're telling today is very tide dependent, isn't it? So
yeah.
We want to come back as well, don't we? We want to actually do a really nice circular walk around Crantock, and we're aiming to do that more in the summer, aren't we, when the weather's going to be a little bit better.
Now, the reason for that also is directly ahead of us. Let's take you towards the Ganal. So one of the walks that you can take from Crantock, you cross the Ganal twice, once up the river upstream up there towards Newquay by the boating lake. I don't know if you can even hear me, you guys. And the other place is here by Fernpit Cafe. The reason we can't film that walk today, well, I'll show you. There's Fernpit Cafe, and here's the walkway that you would use in summer, where the planks are laid on top of the scaffolding poles. And obviously at the moment, the cafe being closed, there's no planks. And oh gosh, look at this rain! Oh, the lens is a bit foggy. Yet again, we've had another really wet day. We've had so much rain over the last few weeks. It's become increasingly difficult to get out and actually film without jeopardising our cameras, without actually getting just soaking wet and not enjoying it. It feels like it's going to start again. We thought we had a bit of a break in the rain, but oh, fingers crossed we get some drier weather soon. This is your fault.
Come to sunny Crantock, you said.
At the back of Crantock Beach you have these amazing sand dunes. Unfortunately, with the action of the waves and the high tides, it's eroded a lot of the base of those sand dunes. You've now just got sheer cliffs that drop 20-30 feet. Look at them behind me there. Just come up closer to get out of the wind. Wind coming off the sea is so powerful and so cold today, but it's quite exhilaratingly refreshing and wonderful.
say, it's one of those days that even the seagulls look cold and miserable.
He looks like he's on an Antarctic expedition with the sand swirling around his feet. Oh, it's cold. Just take my word for it, it is so cold.
I think it's brightening up. Should put my shorts on.
Have you seen that behind you swirling around? The sand is swirling around. The mist is, well, it's just pushing across the whole cove. It's
Can
mad.
I just say as well, for some bizarre reason, there's nobody else here.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it?
On our own.
Look at it, it's bleak. So we're here looking for a cave. Not any old cave, a specific cave that has some carvings in the rock in the face of the rock. There's a lot of theory and a lot of mystery around why, who, where, who did it. So we're going to present some of the theories to you today. But first we've got to find these carvings. We are heading just to the left of West Pentire. There's actually an inlet just below on the cliffside. It'll become more obvious as we get there. I expect the camera's making it look a bit flat. But this is the reason why you have to time it with the tides, because you could get cut off. So let's start to explain. What we're looking for is a carving of a lady and a horse, isn't it?
Yeah, inside a cave.
Yeah.
And we know it's on Crantock Beach, and we know it's on the very far corner of the beach. If
The
you're
west.
stood looking out at sea, it's on your left-hand
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
And we know it's close to the buildings that you see on the headland, isn't it? Which
West
is
Pentire Headland. So it's just to the left as you're looking at West Pentire in a place called Piper's Hole.
Yeah.
There's a carving of a lady and there's a verse beside her, isn't there?
Yes, and it's alluded to the fact it was a lady that lost her life on this beach, and that's the story we want to tell you, but we need to find it first.
Yeah. I'm going to be brave.
Go on then.
So there's no exact date for these carvings. They're thought to be from the turn of the 20th century, so like the 1900s, but nobody knows for sure. Let me just clean the lens. Excuse me. There, that's better, isn't it? Yeah, so we mentioned the tide quite a bit today, and even though it's a stormy, rough old day, it's on the ebb. So we're safe for about 4 hours or so.
I think that's good timing on our part. So we're about an hour and a half off the low tide. We know that the tide is going out, and we've reached where we think the caves are, and the tide is literally just here.
Well, that's I think it's just water, isn't it? The tide is way out. It's another 30 yards into the bay. I think we're perfectly safe.
Yes, but we do know that the tide is going out.
Yeah, the other thing to note is it does come in very quickly on this beach because it's flat.
Yes.
But it is safe to do it if you have respect and regard to the tide time. Welcome to Piper's Hole. As you can see, there was probably a couple of sea caves and they've collapsed over time. And somewhere here are the carvings. Okay, so that one's flooded. Not going to get very far on this side. There's a fabulous cave there. Okay, another cave. Let's try in here. I could just make them out beside this vein of quartz. Look, the carvings. Excellent. Now we've just got to figure out how we get up high enough to film them.
Have you found it?
Yes, yes. It might require some mountaineering though.
Oh, okay. Where is it?
They're right here. Up there.
Oh
Up
gosh.
quite high.
God, they are high, aren't they? Okay, how are we going to film that then?
For you.
Do you bring a ladder?
In my back pocket, Mary Poppins at your service. So there's a horse on the left-hand side, and you can just make out the outline in profile of a lady, and beside her is some text. Let's give it a go at reading that verse. It says, "Mar not my face, but let me be, secure in this lone cabin by the sea. Let the wild waves around me roar, kissing my lips for evermore." Gosh, that is so sad. And you can read this text online, but actually being here in the cave with the roar of that sea out there today, it does bring meaning to those words. Let the wild waves roar around me roar, kissing my lips forevermore. It's quite sad, isn't it?
Really, really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, especially that last line, kissing my lips forevermore. It's like it sucked the life out of her when she drowned, and
it would
carries
suggest
on
as well
doing so.
whoever carved that was emotionally attached to the person that died, isn't it? Maybe a sweetheart, maybe, or
the romantic element.
There's a romantic
of it.
element with that, isn't
So
it?
that
It's very
face,
sad.
that profile,
Yeah.
doesn't really give much away about the era or the period of the lady, in my opinion.
No, it's quite large as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's bigger than I was expecting.
Yes.
And what's interesting is there's a tiny little horse with it as well. At first I thought it was a little dog.
Yeah, it's out of proportion,
it's
isn't
definitely
it?
a horse, isn't it? It's out of proportion. I think that's because the horse is far away.
Oh!
It's hard to tell and to scale it, but I reckon that's a good 2 foot tall, isn't
Yeah.
it, in height? And obviously you've just got an outline, clearly a lady's face. I don't think that's actually her hair that you're looking at there. It looks like she's almost like wearing either a bonnet, or it could even be like a bathing hat or something like that, isn't it? It
Yeah.
doesn't look like,
I agree.
unless she had very closely cropped hair maybe.
Well, again, both of those, if it's a bathing hat or if it's a short haircut, that would say it's post-1900, wouldn't it? Edwardian going into the 20s, maybe.
Very, very difficult
It's very
to tell,
difficult
isn't
to
it?
tell, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Probably isn't the best place to do this because I'm getting dripped on. Okay. But if you come and you find this and you look at it and you see this quite big, it's an impressive portrait of a woman, isn't it? And it's clearly old. This isn't something that's just been done recently. A beautiful verse and inscription. And then you've got this picture of the horse here as well. It would seem to me to portray a story of a lady that drowned, who's died, possibly got stranded here. There must be an involvement with the horse. You think perhaps she'd been out riding one day, the tide came in too quickly, quicker than they expected. She got trapped in here, and then perhaps just couldn't escape. The horse might have got frightened, it could have got injured perhaps, and she ended up basically drowning in here with her beloved horse.
So now we need to find out, is that what happened? There's quite a lot of theories floating around, and one of them is a man called Joseph Prater. He is attributed with carving this in kind of the 1900s. I think it dates from the early 1900s. Joseph Prater, P-R-A-T-E-R. Now we don't know if that's pronounced Prater or Prater. I think double T might indicate Prater.
I go Prater.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we'll call him Joseph Prater. Apologies if we have that pronunciation wrong. Somebody that's done a lot of research, Hannah Eustace, confirms that it was Joseph Prater. He was the son of William Prater, who was born in Crantock, moved to London, married and had a large family of artists, and they often came back, by the sounds of it, to Crantock. Joseph and his brother William, who was older than him, had a hut, a studio if you like, up on the cliff top here near West Pentire. So to come from his hut to here would take all of 10 minutes and maybe carve the portrait. But that doesn't answer who.
So Joseph was from a family where there were 8 brothers, including himself, and 1 sister. And one of the thoughts was that his sister, who died in her 30s, maybe it was for her. But I don't think there's any record of her actually drowning.
So the second theory about who this lady is someone called Ethel de Medina Greenstreet. It's quite a mouthful, you can't say it quickly. And if we refer to her as well, she was actually writing under the name of Medina. So if we just say Ethel de Medina, she was tragically drowned on this beach in an August bank holiday freak accident. It's thought that her maid, who was young, she was 17, went into the water and she was in difficulty, and Ethel de Medina went in to try and rescue her. Unfortunately, both women died on that day. So it is considered that it could be her that is in that cave, portrayed in that cave.
So that drowning happened in 1903, which would fit quite well with, you know, I should imagine this carving obviously happened in that type of time span. Most people think it's probably about 1910, something like that, possibly a little bit earlier.
So what about the horse?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, because when Ethel died, and she died trying to rescue her maid, there's no involvement with a horse. So this is where it gets a bit weird, because basically the horse is a red herring.
Oh,
no,
okay.
hang on, no, it's a horse.
What you're trying to say is that the research we've done shows that somebody called Mr. Dyer, I forget his Christian name now.
I can't remember either, it might be John. We'll call him John.
He was a blacksmith and he was taken ill. He had some time off work and he decided to come down and just restore and make the carving a little bit more identifiable, easier to see. And in doing so, he left his own mark. Yeah. And he drew a horse and carved a horse. Now his daughters say that they thought it had a shorter tail.
Right.
At the time when he did it.
Okay.
And it goes on on the internet, the chatter goes on to say that in 2011, Sarah Stuart Smith came and did exactly the same thing, a restoration of the portrait, and she did a longer tail.
She put a longer
on
tail?
The horse.
Oh, okay. Right.
So the story gets more and more complicated.
So basically this again is somebody separate that came after the event and added a horse to the side of that portrait. But obviously as time's gone by, people have put all of those images together, the horse, the portrait and reverse, isn't it? And they think that the whole story involves someone that drowned, a love, and the horse had an involvement. Yeah,
but as far as we can make out, unfortunately it's not as romantic as that. So the last thing we need to consider is, how did Joseph know Ethel? Did they know each other?
Yeah.
So Ethel de Medina Greenstreet was called Spender before she married, and her family owned quite a lot of newspapers in London, and this is what appeared in one of them. This is a recording of the time. It's announced a sad bathing fatality. Mrs. Greenstreet and her maid drowned. We regret to hear that on Wednesday afternoon, Mrs. Greenstreet, wife of Mr. Greenstreet, who was headmaster of Marling School in Stroud and a member of the Stroud Board School, was with her maid drowned whilst bathing off West Pentine in Newquay. Mrs. Greenstreet's body was recovered and efforts were made to restore animation, but without success. The next paragraph explains that her brother is the editor of the Westminster Gazette, that her mum is a famous novelist, and that she herself wrote columns in the Daily News under the pseudonym Medina, and she was responsible for the Women's World magazine.
Hello.
I don't know if you can hear me, but that's the site of the old Crantock Hotel. It's now a spa and apartment block. And if you look that way, it's just such a short walk to that cave.
So we reckon that's where Joseph and his brother would have been in their artist huts, is it?
Painting.
Okay, and those little steps that come down,
yeah,
sort of hewn out of the rock, aren't they? There.
They are. Yeah. So it gives him proximity, doesn't it? It places him here, and he's an artist, and it's a really good carving. So yeah, it does make sense that he did it. We're going to head off to the churchyard now, because we know that Ethel de Medina Greenstreet was actually buried here in Crantock churchyard. So we're going to make our way across the beach. Thankfully it stopped raining.
The sun's come out now, it's looking quite nice.
Yeah, it's still not warm. And when we get back to the graveyard, we'll tell you a bit more about what we found out. We do intend coming back to Crantock on a sunnier, calmer day. If you've got any old stories about the houses or the buildings in the village, then do by all means put it in the comments or send us an email up at the email address below. There's a lovely display in the church of all the old pictures of the village. So we'll do a bit of a nostalgic heritage style walk and give you one or two stories that we've found. Anything you can add to the video though, do let us know.
So as you can see, we are off the beach now. It's a bit more sheltered here. I think we can actually talk better to camera. So as far as I'm concerned, there's 4 questions here.
Yeah.
So you want to know who the person in the engraving actually is, who's
Yes.
the lady, who did it,
Yes.
which I think we've probably answered, when they did it,
Yes.
which we're not sure, and
Why?
why they did it.
Why?
Those are the 4 questions. So I think we
Was
we
it
understand.
a broken heart?
Well, that's what it appears to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What I think is interesting though is the question about when it was done, because if there was any evidence that it was done before 1903,
Yes.
then clearly it couldn't have been anything to do with Ethel.
No.
No?
Okay, agreed. So, Joseph Prater was born in 1862,
Yeah,
died in 1932.
right.
If this carving was done in the early 1900s,
Yeah.
that would have put him approaching 40 into his 40s.
Yeah.
So is this an image of his love that he lost? There's no evidence he got married, no evidence
No.
that he was engaged, no romantic interest at all. We've kind of dispelled it could be his sister. So if it's done before 1903,
Yes.
can't be Ethel.
No, it can't be anything to do with Ethel. However, if it was done after 1903, it may well have been that he was here on that day when it happened.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, you know, if he was coming down on holiday and we know that Ethel
Or
died
painting on the cliff.
Yeah, that's right.
At the
so
time?
it might have been
Oh,
something
how
he
awful.
witnessed possibly. He
Yeah.
would probably definitely have read about it in the newspapers and could relate to where it had happened. It would suggest to me it's probably more to do with Ethel.
So in memory.
Yeah.
And there is a possibility, there is a suggestion that there is a possibility they mixed in the same circles in London, but there's no proof they knew each other.
No, and I can't remember if she's called Ethel or Edith.
Ethel, you are right. The other thing that is really mysterious about this mystery is that there's no evidence of this carving, like in the 1930s or post-war period or the 60s. It seems to be a recent kind of attraction, doesn't it?
And again, you would think it would have been documented somewhere
Yeah.
quite a few years ago, and it doesn't seem to. We've got a lot of old books on Cornwall, and a lot of them are from like the 1930s,
And they love
1950s.
stories like this,
Yeah,
don't
there's lots
they?
of stories about Crantock and MkII, but this story doesn't seem to crop up, does it?
No, so are we suggesting it's a little bit of a hoax here?
I don't
Potentially.
think so. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that that area might have... See, that area could have been more covered. It could well be that there was a bigger cave system it's maybe gone in, possibly.
Yeah, or the sand level changed.
Yeah, it could have been covered up, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. It just gets... There's more questions than answers. Whenever we do this type of video, I end up with more questions than answers. If you can shed any light...
I was just about to say, this is the point of the video. It's like, if you know something that we don't know, put it in the comments.
Yeah, add to the story. Put us out of our misery.
Why, thank you.
This is the grave that we were speaking of. So it says, in memory of Ethel de Medina, the beloved wife of W.J. Greenstreet, who gave her life in the endeavour to save that of another, August the 26th, 1903, aged 37. And the really, really sad thing is the person she was trying to save, her grave is just there. So the person that Ethel de Medina was trying to save was her maid or servant, and it's Kate here, Kate Wilks, and it's really, really worn out, and it says oh gosh, I can't even read it in the sunshine now. It wasn't sunny a minute ago and I could read it. Can you read it?
Who met her death whilst bathing with her mistress on Crantock Beach, August the 26th,
1903. Yeah,
And she
aged
was
17 years.
I think it's 17 and a half years.
Yeah.
There is a verse at the bottom. I can't make that out. It's pretty much all gone now.
It says something along the lines of, when thou passest through the waters, I will help thee, isn't it? Or I will save thee.
It's incredibly sad, isn't it?
It is. It is, at the side by side in the graveyard. How tragic. Big thank you to everybody that has bought us a coffee over the last few weeks. I'm going to run your names up here now. Thank you so much for your support. It does mean a lot when running a small YouTube channel like this. It basically wouldn't happen without your donations, so thank you very much. So we came to Crantock today, took a walk along the beach to find a carving in a cave to try to figure out the mystery of why it exists. There's a woman with a horse, and it was commonly held that the woman died tragically, and so did the horse, by drowning in the cave.
Yeah, which we found. We found that cave, and we had lots of questions, and I don't think we've actually managed to answer very many of those questions ourselves. We've obviously found it. We do know there's an element of truth that the image of the horse went on afterwards, and that probably isn't part of the story. But we don't know who the mystery woman was, and I think the more I think about it, the more I think it could well be
Ethel de Medina. Yeah, you're probably right.
But
it's the right era, isn't it?
Maybe because of the fact that Joseph was around at that time, he was aware of the story. It was some, you know, it was his way of creating a memorial, perhaps.
Yeah, respecting her memory.
Yes,
yeah, could well be. So perhaps she's got two memorials, one here and one on the beach.
That's a nice way to think about it.
So until next time, perhaps we'll be actually getting out and having a proper walk on a cliff top without rain and wind and all the rest of it. Hope you've enjoyed this video today though, so we'll see you soon.
Bye.